No, that's a great point. That's a great point. Sorry, I'm trying not to burp.
That's probably the front,
I like
the front line. That's what it is.
Is
I'm
that
not
it?
trying to burp.
I think we found it. I think we found it.
That's perfect. Welcome back to another edition of So Basically Podcast. This is episode 7 with your host, the Black Maria, and also my co-host,
Cabrona Logic.
Yes. And today we have an awesome guest. Okay. Let me just give you their bio real quick, give the info on them. Okay. Our guest today is Cece Ridley, and her pronouns are she, her. They currently live on the East Coast in a little place called California, Maryland, which I didn't know that was a thing. Let's say that. That's really cool, though. Cece mentioned living in two places at once is a thing, which I was laughing about as well. She's currently working on her master's degree in marketing management and have finally made it to the promised land of having a job in which she went to undergrad for. Snaps, first of all. Snaps on that, okay? So praise to the artist queens for giving me the opportunity to design some cool-ish, I'm saying ish, I don't cuss, just say. With all of the technical descriptions, Cece is a cat mother of one. We're going to want to know info on the cat, okay, of course. And Cece enjoys a good food baby. Ooh, love that. And nerds out over anything dealing with photography. She has come to be here in this moment with both of us. So let's get this show popping.
Yeah.
And she said, "Do people still say that?" Question mark.
If you say it,
Yes.
we say
Right.
it.
It's a thing.
That's right.
If you say it, it's a thing still, okay?
Welcome, Cece.
Hey guys. So my name is Cece. I know these two lovely ladies from my sorority. I'm so happy that they are a part of my life. They make me happy and they bring me joy. And I'm excited to be here with you all just because I'm able to talk about queer things with them, but then just self-care as well.
Yes, I know. We are so excited. We definitely wanted to share. We were just before we started recording, reminiscing on the memories of when we all. Well, was that the first time y'all met in person? Because I know, Stacey, that was the first time I met you in person.
Right. It's the first time, I think that's the first time I met Gabby, but I met Maria in Miami.
Yes.
And went there for Founders.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So I feel like we've definitely have one of those sorority stories and relationships of like I've known Cece since like 2000 something. Like I think that's what I said to you. I was like, I've known of you for so long.
But try to tell sorority sisters like I don't want to use the word stalk, but I follow a lot of sisters on my social media platforms, and like some of them I just really always see often, or I'm just like they're just so cool, like they're just so cool, and Cece's definitely one of them. So I'm always like, oh my gosh, look at doing. She posts something today, let me go look. Like I'm trying to vicariously be your best friend from the other side of my phone. So yeah, so I always feel like I already know her, so the meeting you just kind of just confirmed the friendship I already had in my mind for us. You know what I mean? So,
my heart pumping.
That's what it was for me.
No, I 100% agree. I 100% agree. I think you definitely gave us a little bit of a preview of what we're going to talk about. When I first hit up Cece, or when Cece answered our survey on Instagram, I never forgot her response. She said, "Well, I can always talk about gay stuff."
And we love that.
And we love that. So we booked her. So we are going to talk about some gay stuff. And then, of course, we are going to talk about self-care, what it means to us as queer folks, how we do it, how we succeed, and how we fail sometimes at it. But first, we have to check in. And I wanted to pick a question. It's low-key a little bit of a vibe because of where my job is at. I know it's early, but we're on spring break. And I think first I said something about like
it's not even spring. I just want to point out it's not even spring yet. So
It's
I don't know
always
what
been
this break
early.
is.
It's
I don't
winter.
know. It's winter. I know. I was going to say, like, I know it's early. I really do. So sorry to all the like CSU state school folks that are not on spring break. But to me, it's just like telling of how far into 2021 we are. You know, March.
Hmm.
It's March. We're getting there. But anyways, in the spirit of reminiscing, I would love to hear some stories. The check-in question is, what's your favorite spring break memory that you can share in the
Um,
podcast?
yeah. Okay. Yeah. Let's see. I was at UMBC. That's where I graduated, and I did an alternate spring break. So
Ooh.
yeah, I was with some ninth graders and 10th graders, kind of showing them around the city of Baltimore of kind of like health, dealing with uh, like I would say gardens, but kind of like places you can go and get like fresh vegetables, fresh fruits, even fresh grain or like nuts, and then how it's grown, how we package it, and then how it's served. So it's kind of was really nice and pretty cool to kind of be a leadership figure for people in my college, because I'm just like, college is huge. I mean, you don't really know that many people, especially in younger grades than you. So I was able to do that, and I enjoyed it because whenever I see them now on like these campus, like, oh my God, hey, Cece, I'm just like, hi.
Oh,
And it was just really nice. And then I was just kind of like in a way breeding them to possibly come and like to any of our informationals for a sorority, which is like a double whammy there. But you're always
yes.
recruiting where you're in a sorority, so
Always the
that's what I
case.
did.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Love the recruitment pants. Stay on.
You can't help it
Yeah,
though. Sometimes it just happens. It just comes out in conversation, or you might be
I
wearing
know.
like paraphernalia, so they're like, "Oh, what's that?" I'm like,
Hmm.
well, let me tell you.
Yep.
If you
Yep.
really want to know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Daughter, what about you? What's your favorite spring break memory? Or one that you don't
Yeah, I'll say one. I never had the official like movie spring break where you like go on a trip with friends or go
Yeah.
somewhere to get wild. Or I
Yeah.
never had
Yeah.
that.
Same.
But once spring right, like I don't. What's that? Um, I did have, I think one moment for me is when I went home for spring break. That was my first time going back home for spring break once going to college. And I was really at a poppin' state, okay? Let me tell you. And I think when I went to college, I like blossomed because that's when everyone's trying to holler at me, I guess. So when I went home, the energy was like, oh, Maria, what's up? What's going on? So my pen pal was really strong at the time. And I just, I was going on dates for like every day of the week. I was getting
Oh,
gifts,
ah,
and
ah.
it was just
She had
like,
a schedule. She had a
yeah,
schedule.
Right. You had a rotation.
right. I was like, this is what I should have had my whole life. Like, why am I just receiving it now at
Right.
19, almost 20? I just felt like I was disrespected before that.
Right.
So, and then I even had some guy in New York that was like trying to fly me out, and he was a baker, and he was trying to like send me stuff. It was funny.
Okay.
The
And
life.
he was from
Did you
Instagram.
collect?
So funny thing is, my sister went to New York with her friends, and and I told like him, and so he was like, "Oh, let me bake them some stuff," and so they had his stuff, like whatever he like cookies or cake he made, and I guess it wasn't that great. So I was like, "Yeah,
Uh,
Mm.
yeah," but he still pressed on me. He did try to hit me up last year and was
The
like,
consistency.
"Can I come to see you? I've been really trying to." I was like,
and COVID? What?
No, not during
"It's
a
been 8
pandemic,
years.
sir. Not during a
It's been 8 years,
pandemic.
Mm,
right?" I was like, "If I said no before, what makes you think a panoramic would change that?" I think that would even decline it further back.
Right.
But yeah,
right.
that was definitely one of my favorite moments. That's when I Kip Hen really got secured and verified. I had a blue check for myself.
Ah,
I,
nice.
de-
I love it.
I love that. I love that for you. I definitely have to echo what you said. I've never had like a wild party spring break trip thing. I feel like as a grown adult now I want to do that, but I can afford that. I honestly feel like most of the spring breaks, all that I can remember it them being like known for is just it was a week off of class. Like, you still work, you still do
Yeah.
things, but everything is just chill. Like work is
Hmm.
chill. Like I would go in and kind of not do anything, but like get paid, you know. And then
Yeah.
I think I can think of like my senior year, which I think we counted amongst my trio friend group. There were less than 5 days that we didn't spend together during the entire year. Like we could count in one hand how many times like we didn't hang out. So I think spring break was literally just a week full of like cooking and vibing, and we made micheladas a lot, lots of micheladas, and just had a grand time. So I definitely miss those nights. Well, thank you both for sharing. Thank you, Cece, for showing us the spring break is more than partying. You can also just do
Right.
I know. I know.
Wow,
Nerdy. Right. Just like a super, probably nerdy vibe.
Well, I think it's time we get into the gay stuff. I don't know what y'all think. It's about time. I think it's
Let's go.
Let's do it. So, one of the reasons why I wanted to bring Cece also on the podcast, besides her amazing talents and gifts to share, is that I appreciate that she's an active listener of our podcast, and she like gives us shout outs on Twitter. I always love hearing like what sticks with you and what you remember and from listening to our episode. And one of the things that I was like, okay, we can't not talk about it with you is queer puberty.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
And I think the moment I brought it up, you're like, yeah, let's do that. So, as a reminder, you know, if you're starting with episode 7 and not, I believe that was like episode 2 or 3, queer puberty is just the state of finding whole new world. And we actually sang the song too. But really entering into the new space of being queer, but also maybe even just coming out or being more visible, more public with it, dating, and just those little hiccups and those little moments that you're just like, yeah, that's a baby queer thing. We wanted to coin that all into a queer puberty concept. So let us hear it, Cece. We want to know, we want to hear. What do you think about queer puberty, and what stories do you have to share?
Yeah, what's the moment for you?
What's a moment?
Well, I guess it's like I haven't told anyone this, but so this is like a new feature of my life.
Exclusive.
Yes. Yeah, so I was in high school. I was in 9th grade. And you know, you ride the bus and there was this fine looking girl on the back of my bus. She like when like with our buses, if you were in 9th grade, you're in the front, and then like as you get older, you're in the back. So she was a 12th grader, and I was a 9th grader, and I was like, man, she's hot. And so yeah, and I remember like she lived in my like living development, and she had like the first stop before me. And so I was like, okay, I know kind of where you live, which is like kind of creepy, but I was here for it. And
okay.
So each time she got off the bus, which was like, like now that I think about it, it makes me laugh. Because like I would look at my friend, I'm like, do you feel like she's like really attractive? Like I feel like she's like really. I feel like attracted to her. And then she was like, I mean, yeah, I think she's pretty. I was like, no, but like, do you feel like, you know how when you look at your boyfriend and you feel like a certain way? She's like, yeah. I was like, I feel that way with her, and she's not my girlfriend. So I need to like, do you know what I mean?
What do you call it? What do you call that?
Right. What is it called? Are you attracted? Like, and I'm 9th grade teacher, right? So I'm just like, I don't know what this is feeling. It's just like really burning in my soul that like I like her and I know her. Like I don't really know her. She doesn't really talk. She's really quiet in the back. She's not really around any guys. She's around her girlfriends like that. Know where she lives. And so, anytime and I swear to God, anytime I looked back there and I knew what seat, it was like the corner seat in the way back, right by the window. And I would look back there, I would smile at her, and she would smile back at me. And I had to make sure she was smiling at me. I had to look in the front like she's not smiling at anyone else, right? Like it was me she was smiling at, right? And so then I was like, word up. And so then I was like, then I'm like, well, wait, I'm awkward. What am I supposed to say? Do I say, hey, what do I say? And I'm like, I think you're cute, but I don't know. It's high school and I don't know how things work. So like she goes and each time she gets off the bus, you know, like the little handle going down the stairs, she looks back at me and she smiles. And I'm just like, you are bad for that. You
you
over
like
there
me.
knowing I'm
What
looking.
do you like
Right.
me? Just say it.
So you want
Right. I
this?
was like, right. So you are telling me, you know, I'm looking at you. So you know I'm looking at your body or looking at checking you out. And you're just like, oh, I know. So I'm gonna look back at you, get a little hair flip, and like be on my way. Like you being bad for that. Okay. So I was like, oh, all right. So I think that's when I knew I liked women.
Wait, you can't just end the story right there. What happened?
I know. I was gonna say that.
So she moved. So she didn't ride our bus anymore. We didn't like stop at her. She was the only one at her stop or bus stop, and so we always passed it. So I was like, okay, that's weird. Like she usually comes on. Like, what's up? So then I was like, okay, well, I was looking for her at school. We had the same lunch. So I was like, work. So I was like looking at her for lunch, didn't see her, saw her friends and stuff, but never saw her. So I was like, what's up? And then didn't see her for the rest of the year in high school. I mean, she probably graduated wherever she went because she was a senior. But I never saw her again. I don't know if she's even in Southern Maryland anymore. So yeah, it was.
Oh my God.
Did you ever
It
know
was
her
heated.
name?
Okay, can I just say this?
No,
Oh, I knew it. I knew. I just feel
I
like
never knew her name.
I feel like Maria was ready to go into like a search, a search
And right now, let me help you.
like God, like that's why she asked for a name, which I was gonna ask too, because I'm back on Instagram.
Yeah,
like,
I never knew her
can
name.
search. I can search.
Well, this is my thing though, because I've just, especially with, because you know I'm addicted to TikTok. I've just seen so many people on there, especially talk about how they reconnected with like their high school love, or you know, someone who in high school had a crush on them, they re-met at their reunion, and now they're like together.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah, and I even saw that in the movie, where there was a girl that really liked this guy, and she wrote him a letter and put in his jacket, but he never put the jacket on in that game day. And then come to find out at the 20-year class reunion, he put his jacket on because they were doing like some paraphernalia picture, and he found the letter.
And found the picture. Oh, wow.
So, right. So she's been hurt for 20 years, didn't think that he cared. He didn't know.
Oh no.
So, which is why I was like, and you know, I told like P-Mom knows I did a fraud specialist, so I'm ready to work. Like I can put in the FBI work to do.
She's ready. I know. I saw it in her face, which is why I felt the safe. But also, I just have to say, I am just so heartbroken right now. I feel like
sad for ninth grade
Cece. I feel like I wish I was ninth grade Cece's friend to be like, at least find out her name.
Right. I would have went up to the old girl's friend.
Yes.
I'm like, your friend, where's she at? Why is she not?
No, why is she not here?
I also do feel like this sense of like closure. Like I need closure. And Cece's like,
I need closure for you. It's not about you. I need closure.
It's not about you, Cece. Right? This is not about you. Okay. I need closure.
Yeah.
I feel like this could be one of those TikToks where they find the person. Only if you're interested. We can talk about it later.
Not anymore.
Okay.
Just because I have someone that I'm kind of looking forward to being with. Yeah.
Okay.
Wait, as Daddy, you should know.
I know. I'm just playing it cool.
Yeah. Okay.
But I think Maria might feel a little left out.
Wow.
I will let you know. Okay.
It's fine. Well, after. Okay. Great.
Yeah.
I honestly feel like that is more like that is for sure queer puberty. Like for sure, both the like I think right without like the fucking around, the like your own realization of like wait no there's this just thinking someone's pretty because I feel you on that.
Right.
I feel like that's what I used to say to myself without realizing that it was attraction. I would say like oh like girls are so pretty, that girl's so pretty. Nah.
Yeah.
Pretty, okay? Like
pretty. Okay.
Right, so I kind of get that feeling of realizing when it's like when you're attracted to someone versus thinking that they are a beautiful person. Just saying like, no, I am attracted to you, right? And to have those feelings at an age where again people expect those and the hetero society expects us to have those feelings about people of the opposite gender, opposite sex. That is definitely that. But I really also think that the lack of closure, the abruptive disappearance, the not knowing the name, all of that just ties the ribbon.
And it was crazy because it wasn't like she even, you know how like at the end of the year you have your yearbook, and like at a certain like I think like May or something, that's when you start taking your pictures for like the yearbook. So it was like the beginning of the year. So it wasn't like she could have been in our yearbook, but I already looked and she wasn't. So.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
You need to link up with a sophomore and get there
Yeah.
first year.
That's right. Yeah.
I just think Maria and I are ready to do some research. But you know what? She's not interested, daughter. So
it's fine. It's fine. I understand. But I love how you said you try to be friend. Like, you know how you feel about your boyfriend? Because I feel like sometimes with people, when you try to explain your queerness to other people, they're like, how could you be attracted to a woman? How could you date a woman? It's like that same feelings that you have about a man, like their smell, how they dress, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing. It's literally the same thing. It's just a different person.
Yep.
So I love that.
Daughter, do you have any queer puberty memories that are coming out after hearing the story?
Yes, for sure. I think after everything was like finalized with my divorce, I was like, okay, so I'm in a whole new world. I obviously realized I like women and I want to date women. How do I do that? So then I think once another step for me was going on a dating app, which I hadn't really done before at all. And so now I was like, okay, well, now I can put like, I want to look for women. So I was like, how do I do this? Because I also feel like too, I know chronologic like related to this is like when you are more like them presenting, it's like it's really a risky situation because a lot of people automatically profile you as like cisgender, so you're automatically attracted to like men. And it's like, I might, but you don't know. Like you should just like ask me. We can have a conversation about it. Like so when I would start having conversations with women online, I was kind of like, okay, so we're vibing. Are we friends? Because a lot of them be like, oh, looking for friends, looking for friendship. Like,
and what do you swipe right?
Right. Like we're bonding. We can't be friends, but like, I want to have sex with you. So I don't know how to do it.
Get to the point, baby.
Right. I want to be in a room with you alone by myself. You know,
yes, with the lights off.
Yes. Thank you. Right. So I don't know. So I think that was another like situation for me. It's like basically, what's the word? Ciphering or kind of filtering through.
Navigating.
Yeah, navigating through like the people that I talk to. So even when I had my first conversation, which is funny, like 3 when I talked to, the third person I talked to ended up being my next girlfriend. Even with her too, I was like, I asked her like, do you like me? In the sense like, do you like me? I felt like I was a teenager. I was like, do you like me? I literally looking back, I'm like laughing like, man, like come on, like really? Are we not? You were literally what 24, 25 asking somebody, do you like you? So. Yes, that was definitely one of my moments for me, for sure.
Yeah, that did make me think of. Oh, go ahead.
I was just saying, I think that's okay to ask those questions, though. I feel like in a time where you're navigating your feelings towards someone else of the opposite sex, I know women are very complex, or people who identify as women are very complex. So I think asking those direct questions like, hey, I'm feeling you. I just want to know if you're feeling me so then we can move on from this. Because if you're not, all right, that's cool. We can still be friends, but let me go ahead and like put my attention and energy towards someone else who has that same feelings toward me. So I think that's cool. And I think that's fair to even ask that question.
Yeah.
But it's just the way I asked it. I was like, man, when you 16? But I literally asked her, like, do you like me?
It's so funny. It's so funny for me because I shared this at the last episode. Sometimes when I hear the stories that like either Maria or like our guests have to share, I find myself I'm like, oh, I'm the other person, right? So like I think my girlfriend was the one asking like, wait, so is she down or is she not? Because Cece, now that you met Sabrina, like she's mask presenting and I'm very feminine. I'm super high femme. And so when she met me and I was the one like shooting my shot, she kind of I think had to go through the process of deciphering, is this girl just being friendly or is she down with the get down? Like, can we talk about more, right? And then for me, I'm over here like, I'm telling you, let's hang out. Like, what is not clear? But it's still, you can't make those assumptions, right? Because people do try and build friendships and we met through a mutual friend at a trip. So it could have been me just trying to like stay connected, right? And then I have to be like,
if she only knew the prep time, it went into you.
She had no idea.
Your feelings. And anyway, she would have had no doubt.
Yeah. But But yeah, that's definitely I think such a the unique piece around like um dating in the queer world through our perspectives.
Yeah.
Um
Mhm.
I think transitioning into still queer stuff, but maybe more into different dimensions, right? We know we want to talk about self care today. And particularly, one of the things that we want to be very honest about is that, at least like I'll speak for myself, I'm not a licensed counselor or therapist in any way, shape, or form, right? So we're not providing professional mental health support services, but we do want to amplify the importance of having open, vulnerable conversations about what that looks like, right? With or without
Right.
professional support, and through our perspective of being, queer folks. And so, yeah, we're gonna dig in. We have a couple guiding questions, but as always, the conversation just flows. Um, so let's start with our guest, Cece. Tell us a little bit about what are some of your challenges and successes with self care. What does that look like for you? How do you tackle?
Yeah. So self care for me means bringing you joy, things that help you grow and things that help you think. A lot of people think that self care means that you have to be namaste and meditate, and I think for a long time that's what I thought. And until I got some friends in my life that told me like, no, it could totally be you going out and taking your camera and taking photos. That's just you time to kind of deal with you and kind of just be in your realm of like creativity. That kind of inspires me to do more work. And I think some of the challenges I've actually been challenged with self care for like my whole life. I'm always on the go. I'm always doing something. I'm always thinking about, okay, what do I got to do in the next few days for like my school or for my job, my family, things like that. And I never take the time to just be still. I never take the time to just breathe and just kind of think about just me and maybe just my breathing. Not even try to think about what's in my room currently. Just kind of go back to just recenter myself. And some of my successes have happened with being with people who are very self conscious about that. Like they exercise it every day, and so I like to bring them into my like friend circle because I get challenged with that. So I'm like, let me bring in someone who not perfect for it, but someone who does it every day. So then I get like, I want to not be my friend, but can you show me your ways and show me how you are able to be calm in a situation like this, or how are you able to not feel frustrated and mad about something that's happening in society, and how to bring it back to you. Um, so yeah,
That's beautiful. I was just like, yeah,
yeah.
uh huh,
I know I saw Maria like, yes, yes.
I know.
Yeah.
What about you, daughter? What are your thoughts?
For me, I definitely wrote down so I didn't forget 'cause I do that a lot. Is
Mhm.
when Cece said joy, like I definitely think of joy. I think for me too, because I am like I do read the Bible. I do refer to it a lot because that's how I was kind of raised. So I still refer back to that at the end of the day. So I know what that is kind of like your God promises everlasting joy. He never promised happiness. I see happiness is very temporary. So when it comes to self care, I look at it as a joy aspect where and looking more on the positive side, looking at the cup half full instead of half empty. So that's definitely my
Yeah.
thing. I would say that when I first heard of like self care, even the word or the term, I automatically assumed it was like meditation. I thought it had to be a Buddhist monk or taking a
Yeah.
vow of silence. I thought that
Yep.
that's what it was and
Hmm.
and that was the only way that you could do it. I didn't know that, either taking a break from my phone, putting it away, or turning it off for an hour, or reading a
Yeah.
book, or there was a lot of times growing up, I would just be locked in my room writing poetry or writing fake raps. I was like this hardcore rapper in my head sometimes. I didn't know
Love
that
it.
like right, like I didn't know that that was my own form of self care at that time. So now
Right.
realizing that, I'm like, okay, I've been having coping skills. I've been having that my weird way of a self care plan already to deal with like
Hmm.
the stressors of life. And I think even like I definitely think there's been a difference been changed from before like coming and being comfortable is like identified as queer. And like now, it's completely changed, and I'm more aware of things and realizing that I can take breaks for myself. And it's also part of growing up, whatever. But that stepping back from things and taking breaks, delegating, saying no has been a big thing that I've been putting
Yeah.
to myself. And like, it's okay. Like, if it's not an automatic yes, then it's a no. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And that's something that I've also had to learn too. So it's yeah, and then dancing. I didn't even realize, once again, that was another thing I've been doing my whole life. It's just something I do. It's a passion for me, but I didn't realize, like, oh, if I am feeling upset or frustrated, I go and make up a whole routine that I have in my head for 80 people. Will it ever happen? I don't know, but I just figured that out, and now I can deal with the rest of my life. So yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Something that I think sticks out to me after hearing y'all's thoughts is, for me, the question comes up of like, what context do we think about self care in, and what context do we learn about it in? Because I know for my experience, I learned about self care in the context and in the spaces of working in a cultural center, and specifically as it tied to activism and right into how do you sort of like navigate your life as you're committed to like social justice issues, but also the immense level of like labor and trauma that it means, right, to do that kind of work. And so I think
Mm-hmm.
because I learned it in that context, or because it was in that space that it was first presented to me, I often saw it as like just a part of doing work. And I try to think back to the things that I was raised on, culturally and as a kid. I was that little kid that I went to school sick. Like I went to elementary school sick,
Same.
sick, sick, because I
Same.
watched my mom work sick, tired, happy, sad,
Yep.
angry, whatever it was.
Yeah.
She got up and she worked and she did what she had to do. And it was, never, it was almost like applauded, right? To achieve something in a terrible mindset or in a terrible physical
Yeah.
state. It was like, you
Yeah.
go. So for me, I think
Right.
about like, I almost only for a long time applied it to like my job and not just like a lifestyle, like a way of like living and treating yourself. It was
Mhm.
like, sure, I'll take care of myself while I'm with my students and have them, not do work for 15 minutes, whatever that is, but not applying those like long term to like my lifestyle. And so it makes me wonder like, in what context did y'all hear about self care for the first time? And maybe like how did that affect the way that then you all like went on about it? I'm also curious because you both thought that it was just meditating. And for me,
Yeah.
the first thing that I thought was face mask. That it was always like, do
Oh.
y'all remember
Mm-hmm.
like what was like
Yeah.
2015? It was all about, I think, like sheet masks or like charcoal face masks were
Mm-hmm.
like starting to be a thing, and it was literally like, take care
Yeah.
of yourself, do a face mask. And so that's
Yeah.
that's where I'm at. So I'm curious as to where y'all first heard about self care and how it was taught to you, if it was taught to you ever.
Mhm. Yeah. I guess to hear self care, I really didn't hear about it until the Women's Center at UMBC. They were very supportive of the women and just in UMBC, but then also like providing like events that you would see. Like there's this area that's called the Commons, and people have like classrooms there, but that's where you eat as well. So there's a lot of traction, and then the bookstores over there, like right in front of it. And so you'd see it either way, especially if you want to make a shortcut to your classes, you would take that route. So any events that were happening in the comments, we were able to see those come in or those events that we're having. And so I'm like, oh, what's that? It always interests me, especially if it has something free, like a sample.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would end up going over there, just kind of talking to them, and they were able to kind of provide me a lot of like self care things around midterms or even around finals week. And that really helped me out because I was stressing. So, and I think that's the first time I really heard about self care, really. And like and I didn't really have self care at home, like within my parents. Same thing with you, Gabby, how like you saw your mom work, no matter what stage she was in, she worked for you, and she had kids. She had three kids, and then my dad was in the military, so he wasn't here, so it was just her, and so she was like tired, sick, and always going to work. And I'm like, all right, that's my mom being a strong Black woman. Bet that's gonna be me. And so I felt I didn't have that at home, and I didn't really realize I was um, not really taking care of myself until I got to college.
Man, talk about it. I know, literally, when Gabby was saying that, like, she's seeing her mom work continuously, regardless of her physical state or who her mental state, who even knows, like, what that was for her.
Right.
That's the same thing with my mom. Like, I never stayed home from school. That was not a thing. I think I said out of a whole, K through 12 career or whatever you want to call it, I stayed home from school 2 days.
Yeah.
I went to school with the stomach flu. I was bad.
You had the
but
stomach flu? Me too.
my mom didn't believe me I had it. She was like, no, because like, I don't know if that's like a Black cultural thing, but when I was going to stay home that day, I laughed about something before my mom walked out the door. And so my mom was like, oh, you can laugh? You can get up and go to school. So grab yourself, I'll drop you off, right?
Oh, man.
So close. So close.
It could have been 3 days, y'all. It could have been 3 days.
Could have been. But my perfect attendance was phenomenal, okay? But yeah, it was, I don't know. It's also, I think it's a cultural thing too. It's like you were raised to be like the superwoman, whether you want to be that. It's like, it's kind of just instilled in all the women around me were these super women dealing with multiple things at one time, never having time to really process their thoughts, but being there for everyone else around them. So that's what I just thought was normal. I was like, okay, that's what I'm going to do. Not really like I'm falling apart inside here and there. But I think I finally really heard about self-care, knowing that it's not just meditation or vow of silence or going, to Bali and having that spiritual awakening. Was during Her Story Month after my first year of school. With Her Story Month, it was kind of just like, a big celebration of women's appreciation across the board. And I did Jack monologues too. So that was, I think, an eye-opening experience for me, not like realizing that like other women around me endure that same thing that I'm dealing with. That's just that figuring out the balance of how I can really give time for myself and what do I really want to do and not want to do. And then also really that it's across cultures, across ethnic groups, across different races. It's not just Black women, it's like just self-identified women in general. Like the struggle is real across the board. It always has been. And so they had some workshop where it just had basically just vendors around the room, just different things you can work on, So there was like mental health resources, like from therapists from campus there. There was like a yoga. Once again, there was yoga. Once again, I was like, I knew it.
There's a reason why.
Yeah.
Got that. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I'm saying it was in there. That's all I have to say. But yeah, that's when it really opened up to me, and reading all the monologues from the stage production, also from the book too. It just really reminded me, like, I'm not the only one that goes through this. This is actually a process that women have to go through to kind of figure out themselves and growth, and that it's okay to take it or however you want to do it. It's not universal. It's definitely individual. So there's like family in that collective of going through that struggle. So yeah.
Yeah.
I think it sounds like a good time to shout out all the cultural centers, women's resource centers, pride centers at all the colleges, because I think that's a common thread around the three of us. That those spaces, and for me being in the end of working in those spaces, for sure impact the experience. For sure, queer students of color. Because it is for many of us the first time that somebody else, and most oftentimes than not, somebody who looks like us or shares an identity with us, talking about these things that our entire lives we're like, wait, that exists, or like that's a thing. So shout out to all the cultural centers. I'm like on my little mic. Snaps to all the cultural centers and to the staff, and really to the student staff that does that work, because sometimes I think again now as a professional in higher ed, I'm realizing like our students drive a lot of the labor and a lot of the conversation when they should be receiving this, right? Like there should be an area of growth and learning for them as well. But the reality is that, you know, the when the work is so driven by them, there's that fatigue that starts, then creeping up on people for doing the work and labor that maybe aren't compensated, not just through, money, but mental health support and services. So shout out to all of y'all. I also want to recognize, like, as we transition to talk about what does self-care mean, for us as queer folks, one of the the privileges that I have to acknowledge for myself that I also was grateful to learn about in those spaces through other students is, the the impact of intersectionality and the way in which like other identities and how those intersect impact the way that you navigate self-care. As a cis woman, I have a tremendous amount of privilege over like trans folks that are also queer, but that face such more like harmful spaces and environments, right? So then the conversation around like self-care versus like, you know, allyship and advocacy and like mental health services. It's a big spectrum. So I do want to like let it be known that like I think we're all aware of that. And I don't get to share that experience. I don't get to speak on it, but we can't ignore it, right? Like, I think Maria, you have some stats around
Yeah.
um, like mental health and the impact that it has in the queer community. And then we can all kind of move into sharing, our experiences and again, how do the extra level of importance to self care, when we add, of course, the experiences that we've shared as women, then women of color, and then queer.
Yeah, so I just wanted to say before I give that, this information is from a CDC study back in 2015, focusing on a youth risk behavior survey. So in that survey, though, that they did, they noticed that 60% of LGBTQ youth reported being so sad and hopeless that they stopped doing some of their usual regular activities. And then they also realized that there's a pattern in that ended up folding out into those being young adults, and that even 13% of LGBT young adults as well too end up just stop their usual pattern of activities, and they just stop and becoming suffering with anxiety and depression. That definitely plays into how they look at their life overall. So it's just a reminder too. It's just like this is how much if you don't have any self-care methods or don't even know that term or relate to that you can suffer in silence, honestly, and it can affect everything around you and your life.
I know we uh, discussed about why we believe, or why do I believe
Mhm.
self care is important, just particularly as a queer individual. And I think it's because I think being a queer individual, you have a lot in the world that doesn't like you or doesn't, I don't know, see you as a person. And I think just that in itself is very discouraging and very sad, I guess. Where you're reminded constantly that you're not accepted in your church or you're not accepted in your professional work force. Not accepted sometimes, like even in your degree, that you're learning to kind of elevate yourself in your professional field. And they kind of see that as, oh, you can't do that because you're a woman, or you can't do that because you're young. You don't really understand all of the things that happen in this professional field, which I deal with all the time at my job. I did get a new job, so we're going to see about that. But my old job, I felt like they didn't see me. And I also felt like I wasn't heard. And I think as a queer individual, that kind of like had that on you, like come beating at you each day, is very discouraging. And I think having self care by surrounding your people with that, either they're just queer or just they're just supportive of you. They could be hetero, but just supportive of your queerness. Kind of be in that realm with them again. Kind of helps you know that you at least have someone there. That you have a support system that loves you no matter what you want to be, who you are, what color your skin is, and will stand up for you if you see injustice happening in the community. Be like, hey, want to go to this march with me? I really need this support right now because I can't do it by myself. And it'd be great just because it'll show me that you care for me. And even though that's not me on that poster right there that died, it could be. So you coming out there with me kind of supports my culture and my identity and my community. So it'd be great. But yeah, so I think it's just important just to have self care because you have a little bit more coming at you than a regular hetero person. I'm not saying that if you are hetero and you're listening to this podcast, I'm not saying that what you go through doesn't matter. It does. But I feel like when you're a queer person, I feel like you're getting more negative vibes coming toward you on a daily basis. So I feel like having that self care just to recenter you is important. And I think it helps when you have other people around you as well.
Yeah. I just want to add on to that. Well, first of all, I definitely want to touch on like there is an additional struggle that's added to your life. I think people don't realize that it's like it's not a choice. This is how I feel. You think I want to have this extra struggle in my life that I have to
Right.
deal with? Like, there's literally legislation in place that in the 70s, you know, being queer or homosexual was considered illness, a legitimate illness.
Yeah, disease.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we have to really recognize that, like, not only was like legislation in place that tells me that I'm gonna have additional struggles, there were discrimination laws in place at workspaces that tells me I can't dress a certain way, even though I might feel comfortable this way. Like, we have to recognize that it's not just a with on our own self, like mentally and emotionally. Like, this is literally in place in hierarchies or whatever.
Yeah.
But Cece touched on it too. I think for me, when I think about self care and just also it being comfortable in my queerness and how like working that all together was when I did finally come out to myself and realize that I went through a series, maybe probably like 6 to 8 months of like depression. And no one was, you know, bashing me. No one was telling me, you know, the standard church thing, if you're on hell. None of that. Luckily I didn't get that. At least not right away. But for me, I stopped going to church because I felt like I wouldn't be comfortable there, I wouldn't be accepted there. No one said anything to me. This is all just mentally that I went through myself.
I feel that.
I didn't talk to my mom as much, and I used to talk to her like every day, if not 2 times a week. I was talking to her maybe twice a month, and she was like, "What's going on?" And I didn't feel comfortable telling her then. It was a comfortability level of myself that I had to go through. And mind you, I had a whole bunch of gay friends growing up, and I supported them wholeheartedly. Like I was always there for them, like figuring out, you know, who they're trying to date on campus or whatever, trying to get the tea for them. But when it came to myself, I couldn't advocate. I didn't know how to support I didn't nothing. I was falling apart at the hinges, honestly. I had to try to regroup legitimately after that. It was a process for sure.
I can relate to that, right? Because for me, when I think about self care as it relates to, you know, my queer identity, I think the reality for me is that I was closeted for so long. I don't think I realized that that was an area of my life that like wasn't cared for, um, or wasn't like really acknowledged. Like it was just so silenced and it was so internal, and it was just something that only I like. It was just like me, myself, and I, right? Like dealing with these like emotions every time. That it took knowing and having people around you, or around me, right? That I knew were allies to feel comfortable like talking about that. And I laugh about this because you know, I worked at the Multicultural Center and the Women's Resource Center at that state for about 3 years. And although I didn't work at the Pride Center, once I moved to the WRC, we shared space. So we worked in the same, we were all in the same center. We worked with the same staff, and we naturally collaborated. And every month during Pride Month, I did all the allyship programming. I was like, yeah, my little straight self's gonna be an ally, right? And I think about how like
And here we are.
here we are. But I really think about how like it took, you know, for me knowing and all those people like validating being here as being okay and being powerful and having community, that it's what I know little by little led me to being comfortable sharing my identity. I'll never forget one time, Jessica, who's an amazing human being, Jessica walked into the center, and I'll never forget, I think I was wearing Converse, jeans, and a plaid. So she said what she had to say, right? She's like, "You look really lesbian right now." And I remember I was like, "Do I?" You know? But I was just like, "Oh." And then she was just like, "Yeah." Like, and I was like, "Okay, I have to pass the vibe check. Let's go." So I think, again, like knowing that it needed, and I said this when we shared a little bit about our coming out experience, for me, it took finding somebody that I wanted to be in a relationship that I didn't want to let pass to be like, no, yeah, we're going to do this. And I think that then that meant that from the beginning, I had a support system, right? I had not only a partner, but I had Maria, uh, who we've shared about this so many times, you know, Maria brought us all literally into one bedroom. And then we all realized, like, oh, like that Spider-Man meme. Literally. It's literally
Everyone
like
was telling me separately, individually. So I was like,
yes.
let's come together as sisters to just really talk about
Yeah. So it brings the importance of like community and allyship and having folks around you that are gonna ride for you. Because then you get to have, right, like I said, the very and again, there's a level of privilege for me that I don't have to deal with the fact that, I'm feminine presenting, so I fit society's role of like what women should look like and act like. So those aren't hits that like I have to take, and I have to recognize that when I think about my career experience. Um, and I also owe a lot of the protection, right? Like to my partner of like her helping me make sense of like when we did have experiences that I know were heavily based on the fact that yes, there's two women holding hands and being very affectionate, but also the fact that my partner's gender expression is more androgynous and more mass presenting. So, her checking me and was like, I get this all the time. Like, this is new for you, but it's not new for me. Right. And realizing then my role of like, I was like, okay, this is not about me. This is about my girlfriend. Then I go protection mode. I'm out here like, let's make these people uncomfortable. Right. So, like, thinking of, one time I was this close to licking her face at the grocery store because the way that this white lady was looking at us, I just wanted to like,
you should have. I will say that that was my favorite
to.
thing with me, like when I was with my ex-wife, because she's like super mass, like you know what I mean. She had the fresh lineup with the curls, had the little collared shirt, fresh crisp pants, like everything. And then she's in the military, so she was just like really always fresh, like on time. And so like it was right. So like whenever we be around men, though, that's the most annoying part. Men be like, "Oh, you don't know what to do with that." That was, that time I was really out here fun on everybody. Okay, I was like, she knows exactly what she's doing.
What she's doing.
Exactly. There's no issues there. That's not where the issues were.
Right.
So, yeah, I honestly, I would just be more, I guess, more showy, whatever, just because it was just like, I hated that there was like this doubt in my relationship because people couldn't comprehend that it was a thing, that it's reality for like, So yeah, whenever, and plus the people, there were a lot of women trying to get at her, so I definitely had to act up. It was not, I'd be like,
protection mode. Oh
yeah.
Oh hey there.
Right. Lick the whole face.
Yes, my girlfriend.
Grab the back of the neck. Just.
It's always the grab the back of the neck.
I don't know. I'm really, when I date women, I'm very territorial. I don't know what that's about. I don't know what that's about when I date women. I'm very territorial. Like a man, I'm like, whatever, go do your thing. Like he'd be my boyfriend. I'll be like, okay, fine. Women is different. I don't know what that is. I have to figure that out.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe don't figure it out. I mean, I have to say no, I'm like, whatever. Let's think. So the girl that I like now, I'm already kind of protective, and I have to slow my roll sometimes. And I'm like, I'm not saying you cannot take care of yourself. I feel like you can, but like I'm that third person or that second person that kind of looks, and I see what they're looking at you and what their either demeanor saying, what their vibes are telling me. And I'm just like, let's not. Like, I'm not a fighter, I'm a lover, but like, best believe you come step to my girl, it's gonna be on. Period. That's it.
I love the way that the conversation is going because it's a reminder of like just how much you have to take care of those around you, right? Like you have to take care of yourself, but we all play a role in being somebody else's self care as well, especially when we're talking about partnerships and when we're talking about queer partnerships when you deal with all of these things, right? They're looking at you funny, and we all have all these reasons of why, right? Is it because they think that the femme girl's too attractive? Is it because they can't believe that there's a masculine girl? Is it because that they can't believe that the two do the like what together. Is it, right? Like so there's just so many things, and the importance of like sometimes, right, you have to, in order to process and for things to be like unpacked, you then develop your own techniques of how do you even protect yourself when those things happen. Because then they turn into conversations later, right? And that's how I had the the change of perspective of like at first just being really like thrown off, but then realizing, yeah, you've never had to worry about the way that people perceive you with your partner in public, and now
Mhm.
you do. And what does that mean, like for me, but also what does that mean for my partner who I really care about,
Right.
right? And helping,
Mm-hmm.
making sure that like how they navigate the world, at least when they're with me, that they got somebody that's gonna ride for them, because then that leads into how do then we when we come home thinking of, after that date, like, damn, the night was beautiful, this person was great, but we had that awkward moment leaving, or we had the awkward moment, right, going to the car. Like, how much it just truly affects, like, even just going on a date or just having fun with
Mhm.
your partner, right? So that's something that's popping up for me a little bit in that conversation. The constant messaging and pressure of, again, then what should being queer look like or be like, and what you should be doing, and how
Mm-hmm.
accepted you are too, right? And within like the many layers of the communities,
Oh,
there's
can
different
I
things.
add?
Oh yeah, yeah, go.
Let me just add one thing, and I think that's something that is coming up more in the past maybe 2 or 3 years. I mean, it's been a thing, of course,
Hmm.
but now that I think on the societal level, people are kind of recognizing that like for relationships or thing, they're going to be around whether you want that or not. So not all the way, but they're somewhat accepting of seeing it a little bit, depending on where you live. You know,
That's
but
true.
they're used to the one mask, one femme in a relationship. They're
Hmm.
not used to both femme, both masks. They're like, what is that?
Right.
Now that's the thing. Now also that's the issue inside the queer community that people have to deal with. But I think it's even riskier for people that are both masked and they're in a relationship
Hmm.
together. Because if they're both femme, it's like, oh, men are like, oh, you haven't had the right penis or whatever. Like
Hmm.
they can have that conversation,
Or it's
or they want to have a
hypersexualized.
threesome.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, they have let's
Right.
hypersexualize
Yeah.
them. Oh, let me kiss or whatever. But when it comes to two masked women, it's like, no, that I've heard people say that's super gay. I'm like, I didn't know there was
What do you
another
mean
level.
by that?
I mean,
I don't know
I
what
didn't
you
know there
mean.
was
That's
no level
another.
either.
I mean,
Level 1.
Yeah, level one. I didn't know that was a thing, and I've seen a lot of like masked women that have an issue with it as well too. It's honestly an issue in the community, but now that's a new thing that they're going through that same struggles of like queerness that people have dealt with already. They're dealing with that now too. So then these two type of couples are nervous to even be out or hold hands or whatever else, which is unfortunate because it's like you think like as a society or just as a community, we've gotten so far, but we still have our own stigmas and struggles inside that they're dealing with. So
I've heard a lot of people use like coming out, and I think that is the term that has been used forever, probably from the beginning of time to now. But I feel like we could like reverse it and say you are letting people in, like you're allowing people into your life to let you know this is who I am, like take it or leave it kind of thing almost.
write it
And I like
down.
that better. Right. I like that better just because you're allowing people to know the real you if you want, kind of thing. It's your decision. And I just heard that on like another podcast, and I was just like, wow, I actually like that better than coming out and like, yo, I'm announcing I'm gay, whatever. But I think now you're like, no, I'm letting you into my life. I mean, there's a lot of people even around like my county who don't know I'm queer. But I'm like, I'm not choosing for you to know about me yet. But if you ask me straight up, yeah, I'll let you know. But I don't have to let you know like, oh, I'm queer, here I am, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, if you ask me, I'm going to go ahead and tell you that I'm letting you in to my community right now.
I love that so much. I think as we're moving to wrapping up in our closing question, I think I hope um, our non queer listeners could really take the stories that we share to understand. As Cece mentioned, right? Nobody is saying that like straight folks don't need to take care of themselves, right? It just may not necessarily be related to the fact that you're straight. That is kind of what we're trying to say, right? And for queer folks, it absolutely has to do with the fact that they're queer, and then you add different layers to that, right? Gender identity, gender expression, and you just continue to take on that route of, when you take the intersectional like lens to it, right? There's more to consider, and there's an extra layer added when we're talking about queer folks. And so to wrap that all up, again, we're not providing professional advice or service here, but the closing question for me is like, how did you all find your self care tools or techniques, things you want to try. Um, how do you connect with those resources as needed um, for yourself?
I know for me, I feel like I was going to ask this to both of you. So I was going to say, do you feel like you have a self care plan and do you practice it? So for me, I think part of me figuring out my self care plan is when I finally lived with a sorority sister, because then I could be 100% like more comfortable in myself. And sorry, I just realized I broke it now, so I'm just having a moment here.
Oh no!
That's all right. I'll glue it. It's fine.
A moment of silence.
Right. I was like, something was really loose over here. Yeah. But I got to just be more comfortable with myself. So that was kind of the start to it. So for me, it's music. I didn't realize how much I really relied on music until I realized I needed it to like start my day. Like I would wake up, I would pray. If I did it, write down a to-do list, so I can get my first like anxious like, thoughts out of my head. Then when I would go take a shower, I would have music on my phone. I had a morning playlist. I had a Jesus Jams list. I had my turn. I have all these. I have like maybe 15 playlists at least right now. But I knew once I finally lived alone, which I do now, like that was going to be the time to really practice it. So when I get up in the morning, I still, whatever prayer I still write down my to-do list. I put music on instantly. There's no, if for anybody that watches Schitt's Creek, one of my hype songs is a little bit of Alexis. So la 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 la, a little bit of like I literally listen to that every day. Okay, that's what we do. But also like on a weekly basis, like I smudge my place, I clean my place with energy, things like that. I set my ambitions for the next week. I put my daily affirmations as post-its around my apartment to remind myself to say it. So when I grab a bowl, I'm like, okay, I will make moves today. Or when I start cooking something, I'm like, I'm a choreographer, I'm a trendsetter, I'm an innovator. Like I'm trying to speak life into myself. So those things, and honest, I do meditate now, funny thing. Not consistently, but I do that. But only because one of my friends has been really practicing now. Now he kind of teaches other folks, and I love that he focuses on teaching like people of color, especially through the Black community. He wants that to kind of be spread out, and he has this whole like thing he does, where you like write notes, you write intentions. He has a whole like care plan he does along with it, and I love that. And he only did it. I did it because I wanted to support him, and I ended up liking it. So I was like, oh, I'm gonna add this too. Why not? And then I'm still a fake rapper on the inside, so I still have notebooks of raps, poems. I don't know what they really are, but they're just words and they form into beats and rhythms and stuff. So I'm a fake rapper. And then and then I did.
Where's your mixtape?
First of all, we need to talk about that because I've already recorded I recorded a song with a friend like years ago. But I think I'm gonna start posting them because like why not?
Yeah,
So,
they'll be our intro song.
Okay, some of them I'm like a gangster lesbian for some reason.
Love it.
Yeah, so we're here.
Cece, what about you?
Yeah, so I know Allie was on the last episode, and like hearing her in my ear again with all you guys were like amazing, and I appreciated that. Yeah, when we were in NOLA, Allie did a breathing exercise, which is like breathe in for 4 seconds, hold it for 4 seconds, and then breathe out from your mouth. And she posed a question to us that I thought was really clever. And the question was, when was the last time you took a deep breath? And mine was like so long ago. Like I feel like your lungs are there for full breathing, but we only use them halfway. And I feel like making or doing a deep breath really calms you down, like actually like pulls you down. And so I use that same breathing exercises daily when I'm frustrated, when I'm overwhelmed, when I feel like usually when I'm like super upset about something, I just cry. I can't like fully express like how I'm feeling in words. So instead of not when I'm crying, I like do that breathing exercises to calm my ugly cry, but then also just calm down my spirits. And that helps me, and I do that daily. Even if I'm not like overwhelmed or anything, I kind of just do it because then that question pops in my head: when was the last time you ever took a breath? And I'm like, last week. Okay, let me go ahead and use my lungs again. So I'll take a deep breath. There's also this app called Calm.
Oh
It
yeah.
has like nature sounds that like play, but then you're able to like have people like talk to you like for like 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. And it's, I wouldn't say like it's a meditation, but it's kind of like you're laying down and they kind of talk to you about focus on your breathing. Your mind may wander to your next few things that you have to do today, but go ahead and back to your center. And I think it's a calming voice to remind you like, hey, it's okay for your mind to wander, but right now we're going to try and focus on our breathing. So that brings you back to your center. So I appreciate that app. And then I also have just a very supportive sisterhood. And I think that no matter like where I am in my like if I have a dark place or if I'm just feeling sad for a day, and it's like in my brain I feel like, man, you're kind of stupid, Cece, for feeling this way. But let me go ahead and like express that to my sister, and maybe they're feeling that way too, or even if they're not, they somehow support me. And I think for a long time I felt like I couldn't lean on my friends or lean on my sisterhood just because I felt like I could do it myself. And so knowing that I'm a one person, just one person dealing with a lot every day, like it's okay to lean on those people because they're going to be there for you. And so that's why I kind of I lean heavy on Gabby and I lean heavy on Allie. I'm a lean heavy on Maria just because I have that kind of personal connection with them. And I know they're going to be there for me. So I appreciate you guys and I appreciate Allie. Shout out Allie. And
Yes.
definitely my data chapter as well. They definitely be there for me. And like it's kind of crazy because like I'm the happy person out of the group. So when like I'm not happy, I get freaked out because I'm just like, whoa, this is not me. But then you're human. That happens. You're not always going to
The
be happy.
happiest
You're
one
going to
is
be
usually
sad.
the one that's the saddest sometimes internally.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so like I have to be very like self-conscious about like, hey, it's okay not to feel good. Like I feel like you can express those feelings and just make that really big cry and then like go ahead and maybe talk to someone and then go ahead and kind of keep going.
Okay, come on, Logic. Yeah, that's what you do. That's what you have.
Yeah. So I think I can definitely relate to a couple of things that I heard from you all, but I will say my biggest challenge is that I am the worst at like practicing what I preach because I think about like what my role is in my job, and I work and mentor a lot of students of color in higher education. And my like MO is always like I will share with you like my failures so that you don't have to go through that, and I'm gonna work with you to center like your needs and help you achieve like your goals without it having to be as hard as it was as I felt like it was for me. But something that I know and I recognize that I don't do it in that process is, I guess, going through like when and how I learned about self care. I make it a part of my work, and that's not the healthiest thing, right? So for me, I feel self care when like I have a cute moment with my students, or when, I receive like validation or reward or something. And to me, I'm like, wait, that's not it though, right? Like, sure, I feel better, but that's not quite it. That's not quite what we need to do. And then I think a lot about my coping mechanisms. I cry a lot as well. I'm for sure a crier. But in some ways, crying is like how I feel like I take care of myself, because I don't know that everybody that cries does this, but I cry and I I almost feel I have this fear that there's no value to my tears, because one, of how much I cry and how often I do it, but two, because of the way that it's over. As I'm crying, my brain doesn't stop, and I'm problem solving in my head. So literally all of a sudden, I'm just done crying. But not only am I done crying, but like I know what I'm doing next. So, when you cry and you're crying, you're just crying, and people want you to talk right after that. I'm like, I'm good. It's over. Like, that's
I
it.
feel that.
That's all I needed. And
You missed the conversation in my head.
yes,
So
you missed it. I'm sorry, you weren't invited.
You weren't there.
Sorry, you weren't invited.
We had an internal business meeting.
We had
You weren't invited. It's over.
Yes, an internal business meeting. Which again, I feel like for a really long time, like I was super proud of being able to do that, right? Of again, like I just got done crying. It was silent for like 15 minutes, but now I literally know exactly what to do, and I just want to hop right back on. I'm challenging myself to not make myself believe like what I can give myself is enough, or that like what I can do for myself is enough, because I'm sure it is helpful when it's given on a neutral way, right? Like I said, to like a student or a mentee or a friend or my partner or my family. But when I just give myself that, I just know that it's not enough, and I feel like I need to let people in into like my challenges, because for me, I it's almost like I don't share my challenges until I feel like I've solved them, and until people no longer have to worry about solving them with me or helping me work through them. For me, and again, it happens in a matter of minutes when I'm like, I no longer can tell my girlfriend why I'm crying, because I'm like, well, yeah, I cried because of that, but like, this is how I'm feeling now, so like, it's over, we're fine, we don't worry about it. you know
That's why you're my big mom. The twinning is so real. The twinning is
100%.
so real.
100%. So yeah, but I'm also, and I recognize what does work for me. And I was just talking about this. I'm a consumer of social media. I live a lot in here, and so sometimes when I'm done, right, like doing my work, the work, whatever it is, and I'm just on my phone, I'm trying to just do what I can with what I consume. And I started following this person on TikTok. Their username is Therapy Lux, just Therapy Lux, and they're a young LCSW that makes content on TikTok about therapy. And to me, it's like my next step, right? My next step is I'm finding young professionals and professionals of color on platforms to consume their content, right? I found a nutritionist who's a woman of color, and I try to follow her content. And I'm following this like really young, I think she's younger than this young woman of color that's a personal trainer. So like I'm starting by like consuming those things from people that I relate to, but in a way that it feels non-invasive for me, right? And I choose to watch your stuff, right? And I choose to take what you share and what works. And to me, that's my next step in moving towards seeking the like professional services and support that I feel like I deserve and I do. It's just sort of the like introduction to me, because I see myself so much as a professional that provides like advice and mentorship all the time, right? I don't realize that like I need professional like support. Um just I mean, we all do. We all do.
Therapists have therapists they go to. Like that's when it really
Exactly. We all do. And you don't have to have a lot going on in your life to need somebody to process things with, but then when you do, like we all need that. So that's currently where I'm at in my self-care journey. I'm again, because I was taught about it like by the book, and I know a lot of things in theoretical knowledge, and sometimes it's like my job to teach it too. For me, it's getting to the practice piece, but I'm easing myself into that by, like I said, right now, just like focusing on the content. I think we all love podcasts, so um, I've been listening to our sorority sisters podcast, Latinx Diaries. Shout out to Roxy. And every time she brings somebody and like a young professional, I'm like, let me go follow him. So like she brought one of her friends who's like also does like amazing advocacy work in counseling, and she's training to be a career counselor, I believe. And I'm like, I just can't wait. Like, I'm seeking some career coaching from a woman of color. Like, I'm just like, that's how I'm gonna start. I'm just gonna follow all of y'all and soak in your content, because that's like a way that's working, right, for a lot of people to use their platform. But my hope and my next step is to cross over to the professional services side. That's a bit of a challenge for me. I'm just appreciating the fact that we talk a lot about being a new professional and being young professionals, and so for me, it's just like loving connecting with other young professionals, because what sometimes felt like we were looking, right, realizing like, no, we're the experts, right? Like we are becoming experts in the things that we talk about, because we have the lived experience, and right on top of that, we're getting like credentials that make it valid to society that we could do this work. And to me, I'm just like, okay, then I'm gonna make sure you get paid, right? Like I'm gonna hire you, like I'm gonna work with you. So yeah, that's exciting. That's exciting. I think we're gonna wrap things up. So with everything we've touched on, any final words from our guest? Cece, any final thoughts, comments, anything you want to
Hi,
drop?
I like cheese. um, but no final thoughts really. Just really happy that you guys wanted me on here to talk about gay things and then also self care. and how we are challenged daily with self-care, and how some successes they don't have to be big, but as long as they bring you joy, and even if it's like for 5 minutes, like that's great. So yeah, I appreciate you guys allowing me to take this time with you guys, even though we're literally across the country from each other.
I know.
Right.
I know. It's one of the many things that we're thanking Zoom for. That we get to
Right.
have you, we get to talk to you and see your face.
Yeah.
Maria, did you have anything?
I also just want to put in, I hope that everyone realizes that drinking water and staying hydrated is also part of your self-care plan. And that's just basically loving on your person. That's loving on your body on inside and out, truly. And I really thank you. Thank you, Logic. Appreciate that. But just making sure that's part of your routine, or maybe adding that in, even if it's 10 more ounces than your usual, your body will greatly appreciate it.
Everybody take a water shot right now.
Right. Hydration check.
Yes. Yes. Well, it's been just such an amazing conversation. I think at so many points in this
Gems.
conversation, I just
Gems.
forgot that like I'm co-hosting the podcast. You know, I'm just like, oh, it's just talking. Like, I kind of forgot. Like, oh,
right.
yeah.
I was like, Cece can just go on talking forever, please.
Yes.
Oh, for sure.
Yes. Cece, thank you for joining us in the future because you're a couple hours ahead. So I appreciate you giving us your Saturday afternoon. Let us know, let our listeners know, where can we find you?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram, Cece Rids 03 on Instagram, and then on Twitter I'm the same. So Cece, like Cece's Pizza without the pizza. Okay.
Oh my gosh.
Also, you mentioned you do photography. Do you have a separate page for that, or is it all on your? You want to contact you for that?
Right. So it's all on one page. On my profile, it has like a little bit about me, and then below it has my photography and design website.
Awesome. So if you need a virtual project and or a safe in-person project in the DMV area, did I say it right? Okay.
Right.
Side note, I texted Cece like a couple days ago, like, hey, what does DMV stand for you again?
You didn't know?
I knew that it wasn't the Department of Motor Vehicles. Like, I knew that it wasn't that. I just couldn't remember what it was, but she so gracefully educated me. So, yes, thank you so much. Everybody go follow Cece, go check out her dope work. Before we wrap up, we have some announcements. But first, let's give our snap for the week. So, Maria,
thank you for all the extra ASMR.
Who do our snaps go out to this?
Yes. So our snaps for this week are going to go out to my awesome, amazing bestie / line sister, Kendra, aka my time. I did a time. That's top of the line. You her. So we're gonna give it to Kendra. But shout out to her because she
also known as our creative director behind the scenes.
Right, she's our co-creative director, right, in this podcast as well too. She knows who she is, okay? But she went ahead and launched her plus size online boutique this week on March 2nd. It's called Beauty by Kendra K. Also, just to note that since she is launched this week, if you use the code LAUNCH, you'll get 10% off your first order. And then also, if you spend $20 or more, you will receive a pop socket for the back of your phone. So you can like place your hand on it. Yeah. So
oh my God.
She does also do accessories too. So if you don't fit into the range of like plus size clothing, then there's backpacks. There's just gonna be coming out with stuff more often too. And there's restocks every other week. So she has a lot of things coming. And yeah, she's really dope. So Beauty by Kendra K, that is the same on Twitter and on Instagram. She also has a website as well by the same name. So she's out here doing the whole thing, the damn thing. Okay. And so snaps to her.
We're not gonna let it go unnoticed that our lovely Maria is also one of the models on the website and on social media pages. So she thought she was gonna let that slide.
Snaps to Kendra for sure.
Yes. Snaps to Kendra. Thank you, Cece, for being here. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We will catch you all next time.